Hey, howdy guys, this is Dave, and we are coming at you hot and heavy with another Choose Your Own Adventure reading. Today's reading is from The Forbidden Castle. This is number 14 in this particular series. The copyright is 1982, and I'm pretty sure a lot of this takes place in England, so I am not doing any of the accents. And without further ado, here we go. You promised yourself never to go back into the Cave of Time. But when you found the opening behind a big boulder in Red Creek Canyon, you couldn't resist. The cave seemed darker than before. You slipped and fell. Your head hit something, and here you are, lying in a field, looking up into the branches of a big oak tree, with no idea of where you are, or even what century it might be. Now you may never see your family and friends again. Rubbing your aching head, you take in the scene around you. Nearby, you see a narrow dirt road, and beyond it, a fast-running brook. The road disappears into dense woods on either side of the field. You hear the sound of hooves and a strange clanking noise. Someone is coming. You duck behind a tree as two men on horseback ride toward you. They are wearing shining metal armor. One of them carries a white banner with a golden lion on it. They must be knights. You watch as they rein in their horses and dismount just a few yards away. "It has been a long ride, Sir Rupert," says the taller one, "and you have had a long time to think. Tell me, have you solved the riddle of the Forbidden Castle?" Turn to page 3. "In truth, Sir Godfrey, I have tried, and so has everyone else in England. What a reward King Henry has offered. Half the kingdom of Wales." "A handsome reward indeed," Sir Godfrey replies, "but not an overgenerous one. For the old monk promised King Henry that if he conquered the Forbidden Castle, he would rule all of Europe." The knights fill their flasks with water from the stream. As they walk back to their horses, Sir Godfrey says, "We must get on to Cotwin Castle. The king expects us before the sun passes behind the west tower. He will be angry if we are late." "Aye," says Sir Rupert, as he vaults onto his horse. "The king has been in fearsome temper since he learned that there have been foreign spies in the English court, and now he has ordered that all suspicious-looking travelers shall be locked in the dungeon." As the knights prepare to ride off, you wonder whether you should come out from behind the tree. You're wearing 20th century clothing. Surely you will look suspicious to these knights. On the other hand, you can't stay hidden forever. Okay guys, going right into our first set of choices. If you decide it would be wiser to wait for the next passerby, turn to page 4. If you decide to step out from your hiding place, turn to page 6. Okay, so obviously there are some questions right off the bat here. It mentions going back into the Cave of Time, as in we have already, this is picking up on like a part 2 of a previous quest. This Cave of Time here, apparently we have gone in there. It took us somewhere we didn't want to be, and we vowed never to go in there again. But we found the entrance in Red Creek Canyon, and we just went right in there. So now we are hanging out in medieval England, and this is what we're working with. Going off our choices here, I do not think it is a good idea to come out of our hiding place for these guys, because they mentioned that any suspicious-looking traveler shall be locked in the dungeon. And we're not trying to get locked in this dungeon here. So let's wait for the next passerby. Let's not make ourselves known to these knights, because I am not trying to fuck with that right now. We are going to wait for the next passerby. Turn to page 4. You decide to wait. As the knights ride out of sight, you hear a deep voice behind you. Are you going to stand behind that tree all day? Turning, you look up into the eyes of a giant man. He is wearing leggings and a tunic made of deerskin. He holds a bow in one hand. A quiver filled with arrows is strapped over one shoulder. "You don't want King Henry's knights to see you, eh?" he laughs and adds. "Then you are a friend to me. Those puppets give me more trouble than they are worth." He bends down and looks closely at your face. "My word, I have never seen the likes of you in these woods. I am a stranger from another place and another time," you say. "Could you tell me what year it is?" The giant laughs again. "I don't keep count," he says, "and I have never seen why anyone should. Garth is my name, and you can stay with me if you like." "Where do you live?" you ask. Garth answers with a wave of his arm. "My house is the whole wide forest, and there is plenty of food and plenty to do. It is the only place where a person can be free. why not join me? Of course, if you are bothered by a little rain and wind now and then, you can follow the road to Cotwing Castle. They'll give you a roof over your head. I must warn you though, it might be the roof of a dungeon. Looking at our next set of choices here, if you decide to go with Garth, turn to page 7. If you decide to try your luck at Cotwing Castle, turn to page 9. So those are our options. This Cotwing Castle still doesn't sound appealing because of this dungeon and those knights. So I think at this particular time we are going to chill with Garth and turn to page 7. You've always wanted to learn how to live in the wilderness. This seems like the perfect chance. You follow Garth as he leads you through the pine forests, across roaring brooks and up steep rock ledges. The sun is dipped below the western hills when you reach a shelter under a rock ledge. You help him gather sticks and pine boughs, and you are soon warming your hands before a blazing fire. Why do you live in the woods like this? You ask. He grins. Ever since I told King Henry that he was no better a man than anyone else, he's had a price on my head. And he has lost 5 of his best knights trying to bring me to the gallows. Before I met you, I overheard his knights talking about some riddle. Do you know anything about it? Yes, and it is quite a story, says Garth. About a year ago, an old monk visited the king and told him about a mysterious castle. And of course the king demanded to know where this castle is. But the monk would not tell. Instead, he recited a strange riddle and then said, who solves the riddle will find the castle, and who conquers the castle will rule Europe. Ever since then, King Henry has been trying to solve the riddle. He is angry because none of his wise men can do so. Turn to page 8. Do you know the answer to the riddle? Garth laughs. I do not even know the riddle. If you want to find out, you must gain admittance to King Henry's court. You may succeed, but if they suspect you are a runaway serf, they will throw you in the dungeon. You have no way of knowing what may lie in store at Corwin Castle, but it's risky staying with Garth. Okay, here we go, rocking another couple set of choices. If you decide to try your luck at Cotwin Castle, turn to page 12. If you stay with Garth, turn to page 11. Okay guys, I'm still not feeling this Cotwin Castle bullshit. I am trying to stay alive here and just get to wherever I'm trying to get. And I do not need to be thrown in any dungeon, or hung, or beheaded, or burned at the stake, or whatever medieval tortures they want to inflict on my ass. So I think at this current time, we should stay with Garth and turn to page 11. Life with Garth may not be easy or even safe, but he is a good friend, and you prefer the dangers of the forest to those of King Henry's court. So you join Garth in his forest kingdom. He teaches you to hunt and fish. In the evenings, the two of you sit around the fire, and he tells stories of knights and dragons until you fall asleep, dreaming of a day gone by with your family and friends, hundreds of years in the future. One day, Garth turns to you and says, you have grown quick and strong and wise in the ways of the forest. It's time for you to decide what sort of life you want to live. If you would like a dangerous life where you might find fame and fortune, you could enter the court of Rufus, the mad king of Hereford. Or if you wish, you can remain in the forest with me. Okay, right back into another set of choices. If you choose to enter the court of Rufus the Mad, turn to page 21. If you choose a life in the forest, turn to page 24. Garth, it's been real, but we have got to dip. We can't stay in this forest. We're trying to get places, and so we are going to this is another option other than that Cotwin Castle. We're not trying to go there. Rufus the Mad sounds a little disconcerting. But at this point, we've acquired some skills with Garth in the woods. We've avoided these night assholes. We're going to take our chances and go to the court of Rufus the Mad. Turn to page 21. I'm grateful for all you've done for me, you tell Garth, but now I think I'd like to see more of the world. I'm willing to take my chances with Rufus, the Mad King. I admire your courage, says Garth. Rufus may like you, and then again he may not. Or he may like you one day and hate you the next. Some say he is generous, some say he is mean. You will soon find out. For 3 days, Garth travels with you through the forest. When you reach a road that runs alongside a crystal clear lake, Garth stops and shakes your hand. Follow this road for a mile or so, and you will reach Fiddlegate, castle of Rufus the Mad. You bid him farewell and start along the road. You miss the company of your friend, but you're happy to feel the warm sun on your back and to smell the fresh, clean air of the pine forest. The sun is high overhead when you find yourself at the top of a ridge. Ahead of you is a beautiful green valley. Beyond it is a great castle with a stone tower which seems to be leaning slightly to one side. As you approach the front entrance, you notice that some of the walls are crumbling and the drawbridge is down. You would think the castle deserted were it not for the smoke rising from the courtyard and the cows grazing in a nearby field. Turn to page 22. As you stand before the drawbridge, wondering whether to cross it, a bugle blows. After a few minutes, 2 guards appear at the entrance. They lead you to the large sunlit court. The yard is covered with broken slate tiles. Clumps of weeds and shrubs poke out of the ground. Turn to page 30. Again the bugle sounds. More guards appear. They surround you and march you through the central arch, and then open ranks as a short, fat man waddles towards you. He wears a blue velvet robe and a golden crown on his bald head. Behind him is a very thin man wearing a pointed cap and bells. Surely this must be King Rufus and his court jester. A guard steps forward. King Rufus has deigned to look at you. You bow. King Rufus, I am honored to visit your court. Silence! I did not ask you to speak, says the king. Turning to the jester, he says, Stillwell, what say you about this intrusion into our royal court? 'Tis a sour sorrow to us all, and all us too, says Stillwell. The king scowls and says nothing. The guard points a long, bony finger in your face. Well, what have you to say for yourself? You feel you should say something, but you wonder if it would be wiser to wait until the king himself asks a question. Our next choice is here. If you decide to speak, turn to page 37. If you remain silent, turn to page 39. I don't know who this guy is coming in here acting like some hotshot, but we aren't going to let him intimidate us. He won't boss us around. We won't let his bitch assness wear off on us. We are going to remain silent, and we're going to wait for the king to ask us something himself. Page 39. You're afraid to disobey the king, so you say nothing. Well, the king shouts, can't you speak? Before you can answer, the jester says, I suggest you teach this youth a lesson. Stillwell, only a fool like you would surely know what not to do, says King Rufus. Why haven't I locked you up in the tower? Because, your majesty, says Stillwell, if you were to lock me up, it would mean you'd made a mistake when you appointed me. Since you are perfect, you cannot make a mistake. Therefore, you cannot lock me up. The king scowls and paces up and down. Finally, he turns to you. You have fallen into my favor, he says. It would have been better to have fallen in the moat, says Stillwell. The king smacks Stillwell over the head with the flat side of his sword. Turning to you, he says, if you agree to serve in my court, I shall make you one of my ministers. The king seems to have taken a liking to you. He's mad, all right, yet there may be method to his madness. Maybe he would help you find the forbidden castle. All right, so we're just going to address this right now. This court jester cracks me up. I feel like it's the only person that could actually throw shade at the king and the king not actually behead his ass. You can lock me up in the tower, but that mean you'd made a mistake, and since you don't make mistakes, you can't lock me up. That is just such a slick line. I wonder if he stays up at night just thinking about that. I think going after this Forbidden Castle thing, I don't want to come in too hot on that, because it's still a touchy subject. I mean, this Mad King dude, he likes us, but if we ask him about that, it may just be too soon. So maybe we should kind of prove our worth here, serve his court a little. We got the time, so why don't we just give this a try? We're going to agree to stick around his court for a while and just see what happens. Page 45. I would be honored to serve in your court, my lord. Very good, says the king. Tonight we shall have a banquet in my honor to welcome you. Stillwell leads you up the spiral staircase to your new quarters, a tiny room with stone walls and nothing more than a bed of straw and a hole in the wall for a window. Your bed is almost as hard as the floor, but you lie down for a nap, for it's been a long time since you've had a good night's sleep. It seems no more than a minute later when you are wakened by a knock at the door. Who is it? A page, sent to say the banquet is about to begin. The page leads you down the long spiral stairs to the great banquet hall. Peering through the archway, you can see that most of the guests are already seated. Your mouth waters at the sight and smell of a roast goose, onions, and gravy. As you start to enter the hall, a great hulk of a man blocks your way. You may not enter, he says, but the king himself invited me. The king did not invite you. What do you mean, you ask? Who are you to contradict me? The Minister of Contradiction, he replies. What kind of title is that? Turn to page 47. It is my job, he says. Too many people in this kingdom were contradicting each other, so the king banned it. He has decreed that all contradicting in the kingdom shall be done by me. Is everything you say a contradiction? No! The king has ordered me to contradict everything that is said by anyone but him. Then I cannot come to the banquet, you say. Oh, yes, you can, he shouts. He steps back a moment, and you dash into the hall and quickly take an empty seat at the grand table. On your left is an old knight with a long, sad face. On your right is a woman wearing a white dress adorned with lace. Who are you? You ask the woman. I am the lady in red, she says. But your dress is white. How dare you contradict me? She says. Only the Minister of Contradiction can do that. Turn to page 51. This is obviously a madhouse. Turning to the knight on your left, you ask, and who are you, sir? The Minister of Laughter, he says with a laugh. What does that mean? I decide what is laughable and what is not, he frowns. You cannot help but laugh. The minister reddens. How dare you laugh without my permission? At that moment, the king stands up and calls for silence. We welcome a new member of the court. Pointing at you, he says, rise. You stand up and the king unrolls a long scroll. We have just appointed a minister of craftiness, a minister of happiness, a minister of inaction, and a lady of ladies in waiting. There are only 2 openings left. Tell us which position you would prefer. Would you rather be the minister of guesswork or the minister of sanity? You look around, hardly able to believe what the king has said. Only now do you fully understand why he is called the Mad King. Absurd as it is, you can see you'll have to pick one job or the other. Okay, here's our next choices, guys. If you say you'd rather be the minister of guesswork, turn to page 60. If you say you'd rather be the minister of sanity, turn to page 61. Guys, what have we gotten ourselves into here? I did not expect any of this. In fact, I don't know how we can get out of it now. I'm just at a loss for words. So I guess if we had to choose here, I guess we should try the Minister of Sanity. What do you think? I mean, all these people sound insane, so if I'm the Minister of Sanity, I may be able to dictate everyone else's sanity. So I may be able to help the situation. Turn to page 61. I'll be the Minister of Sanity, you say in a loud, clear voice. Your statement is met with groans and moans. Some of the lords and ladies begin to cry. Others throw up their hands in protest. The king stands up. His face is pale. I only said that as a joke, yet you accept it? This is near treason. We have never had a minister of sanity, and never will. It would undermine every principle on which our kingdom is founded. We must not have it, cries the knight sitting near you. Send this felon from our midst. It's time for a hanging, says another. To the stake, a lady shouts. This is madness, you cry. Everyone rises and cheers. Ah, that is what we want to hear, says the king. What you say is worthy of us all, and of you too. Henceforth, you shall be the minister of madness, the most important minister in the kingdom. 3 cheers for our new minister, yells Stillwell the jester. Standing, you bow and thank the lords and ladies and the king. I'll do my best, you say, to uphold the king, to laugh at sadness, cry at smiles, and keep this kingdom free from logic and all that's wise. The end. You know, I'm not gonna lie. I've read this book for a long time. I have never come across that ending. That was not an ending I was expecting for this video per se. Sounds like we are just living our lives in madness, some Alice in Wonderland fairy tale. I don't know if I'm really satisfied with that ending. I'm gonna have to do this book again, because there's gotta be better endings than that. This one said it had 27 possible endings, so at some point in the future we'll do this one again. But until next time, if you liked what you heard, you could always like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, have a good one.